Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Prove Me Wrong podcast. As always, I'm your host, Pete Lieb, and I'm glad you're here with me again today. I have a question for you. Ever feel like despite all of your best intentions, goal affirmations, preparations you've made for success, somehow you just fall short of where you were expecting to be? You didn't get the job you wanted, you don't have the house you dreamed of, had trouble with your personal relationships, just the feeling that sometimes the universe is working against you. I think we've all heard that before. Maybe, though, instead of the universe being against you, you just haven't yet learned how to harness properly your own energies and allow the proper mindset and daily practice to let the powers of the universe guide you to the outcomes you were hoping for rather than try to bend it to your will. My guest tonight is author and spiritual advisor Kim Stanwood-Terranova, and we are going to examine her philosophy and her book, The Technology of Intention. Kim Stanwood-Terranova is a counselor, coach, speaker, author, and spiritual leader committed to guiding people in fulfilling their greatest destiny. Her book, The Technology of Intention, Activating the Power of the Universe Within You. She has immersed herself in the study and practice of universal spiritual truth and wisdom with a degree in spiritual studies and as a licensed practitioner of truth through Agape International Spiritual Center. Kim has worked with and learned from world-renowned spiritual leaders, including Dr. Reverend Michael Beckwith and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, as well as many more. Additionally, Kim is also the founder of Namaste Retreats and Namaste Retreats for Children, where she offers spiritual seekers a space to go deeper into their individual path of self-expression and guides young people in embracing meditation, gratitude, self-empowerment, and spiritual tools to assist them in life. You can find more about Kim, her work, and her book on her website, kimstanwoodterranova.com, and you can also purchase her book, and I've got it right here with me, on Amazon.com. So with that, welcome, Kim, to the program.
Thank you so much. That was a great lead-in.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. I practiced it for hours.
Great.
Maybe a couple minutes. Let me start. If you can start with me off the beginning, Kim, I would appreciate it. How did you become so involved in spiritual studies? How did that happen?
Oh, my goodness. Through a lot of pain.
Yeah.
It was, my teacher taught me a long time ago, we either get pushed by the pain or pulled by the vision. And usually for a lot of us, it's pushed by the pain and then pulled by the vision. And that's definitely what was happening with me. I'm grateful it happened to me at a very young age, high school, college. Things just felt odd because I felt odd. I felt like, why do I want to talk about universal principles and how we create our own reality? And I'm not finding anyone to talk with about this. But through my desire, and the sadness of not knowing where to turn to feel like there was this conversation that was possible, I was pulled to a spiritual center in Oakland, California, and it sparked me as soon as I got there and thought, there's other individuals that want to have these conversations that are creating their own reality and have the pathway to how. I was in. And once I was in, I never turned back until I just kept growing to the next teacher and the next teacher. And then I started applying everything I was learning. And when you apply what you're learning and then you see great results, all of a sudden that's where it turned. And it was the vision of what was possible then now began to be, my desire, not just the pain anymore. It was the vision of, oh, there's so much more to create. And I'm so interested in the process of doing just that.
When you were young, were you brought up in a household that embraced any type of spirituality, or was it something that you had to find on your own?
I definitely found it on my own. My parents really said, you choose. So they didn't guide me to any certain place, but they left the door open to whatever you desire, go check it out. And I think some people could say, well, that was challenging because I didn't have a lead in somewhere. But the other good news was I popped into all different places with friends and would sit there like, is this the fit? Is this the fit? And I was searching for a space that accepted all, that honored all, that really embraced that there isn't a right or a wrong, that there's many pathways to spirituality. And it took me a while to find that.
Well, before we get into the actual book and the practices themselves, can you give me an idea? What is the impact that the world is still on lockdown? The world still has a lot of, and especially your state, you're in California, right?
Yes.
They've never really relaxed any of those restrictions that they had from the beginning. How has that affected and what effect has that had on individuals that you are working with mentally? When they have all of their freedoms taken away and everything that they were used to be able to do stripped from them, what strategies do you recommend to stay the course and stay in this place of intention when everything else around you seems so out of control?
Such a great question. I really know that it's times like this in life when we are really pushed up against the wall of challenge, that if we don't have a spiritual practice, whatever that practice is, that's when we will tend to crumble and believe and I want to say this loosely, we will lean into circumstantial evidence that we're separate or that it's hard or we'll never get out. To me, that's all circumstantial evidence. It's happening. I'm aware that it's happening. We must always remember that we have a power within that is our consciousness that's bigger than a circumstance. I make reference in the book to I only do it for one chapter, but there's a lot of things I've gone through in life that the circumstances were so dire that there was no way it seemed like I was going to move through them. And I know that if I didn't have practices of intention, of meditation, of really journaling and prayer work and really amplifying every tool I have in my toolbox, I wouldn't have made it through. Right now in our lives, I completely assist individuals to dig deep in their toolbox. We must remember that we're still connected. And just because we seem to be separate, we're still one consciousness of humanity, that if we have to find other ways to connect. And that is our creative desire of what else can we participate in to stay connected and awake?
And you've been doing this for a long time. So you've been involved in this for 25 years based on what, on your bio there. What have you noticed in terms of changing perspectives by the general population during that time? Just with the preoccupation with social media and things are all at your fingers and we don't really talk to each other as much anymore. The reliance on technology. I mean, heck, 25 years ago, I was in college writing a paper on a typewriter with a book that I had actually checked out from the library, right?
I love those days.
So it wasn't that long ago, it was is the point.
Right.
And so what have you seen in terms of the shift of, are people pulling back from that type of discovery, or are they now maybe coming back to it because of this, we've been mindless for so long? Yeah.
I think it's both. I think we have, and that's what I mean about we must stay awake. We have a choice right now.
Absolutely.
That we can embrace the technology that brings us information, but we've got to stay in balance. And that is why I speak about, we all have an inner technology, and that inner technology of our soul is our practice to stay centered, that we are creating from the inside out. We're taught in the world to keep looking outside at a screen for information. I absolutely invite people to go inside, ask those questions inside, create a space of listening so that we can have balance, to appreciate the technology of the world, but have discernment so that we don't just go to it firsthand. We go to it awake and really listen. What is the truth that's being revealed in this statement or in this social media outlet that works for me? And where do I believe? Because it's when we get lost and lose ourselves in that exterior, screen time and forget that, wait a minute, I've got a technology right here. So it's all about balance, listening to this inner technology and then being conscious when we go online, to stay conscious when we engage in that.
The biggest fear for me is that I have two young children. I have two teenage children. I have a 19 and a 17-year-old who have known no life without cell phones and the internet.
Right.
They have known nothing other than that. And so that really does scare me quite a bit because, you and I can have a conversation. We're old school. We can have a conversation one-on-one, but a lot of that personal interaction is being lost with, I see my children, they spend most of their interactions with their friends through a phone, so that really scares me. And I'm hoping that somehow or another we're able to overcome that and people start looking for personal connections again and having real relationships with people, physical relationships with people.
That's one of the blessings that has occurred in this time that we've been in our own little cocoons, is what I call it. Mm-hmm. I've watched people rebuild relationships through now using this technology. So say they're Zooming, but they're still seeing each other and having a conversation. And I've had clients come to me and say, I'm so appreciating my time at home and re-engaging with my children and finding a way to work from home. I don't want anyone to lose those pearls that are rising up in a hard time we're in.
True.
There's still, it's like, where is your attention? Is your attention on the pearls that are being cultivated? So if our children are starting to communicate this way, and at least seeing each other, and then we, assist them to say, okay, we're having no screen time for the next couple hours. We're doing something without screen time. We get to keep bringing them back to remembering that I want this. I want this connection with you, because it's so tender and we can't get it from a screen. But we have to embody that, live it for them, and then engage them in it with us.
So my last question before we actually jump into the book. You're in California, and California's on fire. I mean, how close are you, or how close are those to where you are now?
They are not right here, but it's very smoky outside. And it's very tender subject to me, because it was only 18 months ago and I lost my home to the Woolsey fire, the Southern California, the last bad Southern California fire, which was maybe 20 months ago now. So I am in big prayer for everyone right now, because I know it too well. I know what it's like to leave at night and the next day everything's gone. Everything in our entire lives is gone. And I find it interesting, and I'm going to say this because I know you're going to say something about the book next, that it's very interesting, and it's proof of the power of intention. Is when I left in the middle of the night, and all I grabbed in that fire was the computers and the dogs. Someone could look at me and say, how are you going to finish that book now? You've just lost everything. You don't even know where you're going to live, which was very true. And somehow, because I set the intention to complete this book years ago, the universal power inside of me still completed this book in a year that it was the hardest year of my life, that I had no place to live, that I was bouncing around trying to search for where are clothes for my children. How do we reestablish life again? But when we are in practice, so back to the fires now, I'm the practice that I could still be holding people in prayer. I could still be sending strength to others. I have family members who are running in the middle of the night in the Bay Area, not sure if they were coming home to a home again. So we get to support one another, love one another, and I get to stand on this side and say, if you will make it through. And it's not easy, but I'm going to stand here and hold your hand through it and give you tools to move through it. I couldn't have made it through if I didn't have these tools that I use daily and teach everyone else to use.
So obviously, if you saved your laptop, and that was one of the few things that the laptop and the dogs, from what I read in the book, you saved that during the fire. It was obviously very important. What was the driving factor that made you decide, after all these years of practice and you were working with clients, to actually write the book?
I was watching all my clients shift their lives dramatically as they were practicing living a life of intention. And when they would keep coming back to saying, well, how do I write it this way? Write me an intention for relationship or work. And I would assist them and watch lives change, and manifestations happen overnight. It was very clear to me that if I could get this information in a clear roadmap, anyone could do it. Can I assist everyone else to practice just the tools that will lead them to living an intentional life so they could create all that they wish. So it was really my own life and watching the difference of living it by intention, all my clients, and really listening to, universe say to me, it's time now, because we get those insights all the time. Whether one wants to call it spirit, universe, God, whatever you call it, we're getting messages. And mine was, this information needs to get out. So sit down and start writing, and I listened to that as well.
So getting into the nuts and bolts then, when you're saying the technology of intention, can you explain to me what you mean by intention?
Yes. So intention is a lasered statement that we are placing into the universal consciousness of all that we desire. So it's a statement of like, my intention is to call forth harmony in my family. That's an intention. My intention is to be completely present and available to connect with you today and to have a safe place for us to discuss all conversation. It's a really clear intention. If we don't set them, what happens is we show up with hidden expectations. So if anything occurs, we're knocked off of our center because we don't even know we're standing in expectation. The one about harmony in the house. We could walk into home thinking, well, if my kids' rooms are clean, if the dinner's on the table, everything will be good. it doesn't happen, then we're disappointed. If we are living by intention, we walk in co-creating our lives instead of looking for our lives to be created for us. And that's why it's a technology. We have to be in the process of creating at all moments. Otherwise, it's just going to be creating by default.
So expectations then are essentially almost the enemy of intentions. I mean, honestly, right? If you're expecting, and but that has been the way people are taught forever.
Yes.
Yes. You see these bumper stickers, expect the best, and that's not maybe then if you don't get the best, now all of a sudden you've thought that you found yourself a failure. Yeah, the experience was not what it could have been if you weren't expecting the best.
Well, the expectation is a tricky word.
Yeah.
Because the one you just said, expect the best, is still an expectation that could bring joy to people because they're still looking for positive. The expectation I'm talking about is this, and this is really a determining point, is that expectation that is determined by something outside of us, a person or a place or an event. Something must happen a certain way for us to be fulfilled. That kind of expectation leads to disappointment because we're placing the power outside of us instead of within us. So if we expect, if my mate does everything I ask them to do, then my day will be good. We're in expectation that could lead to disappointment. That's not an empowering thought. If we walk in with the intention to connect with my mate and ask questions of what's possible for us today, then we're creating with them. So it's when the expectation is outside of us, something must happen out there to fulfill us. That's when we get tripped up. So that's when the quickest way out of expectation is to set an intention. So if somebody says, oh, I just realized I was in expectation because I sent a text to that person and I expected they'd get back to me and now I'm mad at them. I'll go, then you're disappointed because somebody didn't do something for you. What's your intention? And they go, well, I want to talk to them. I want to connect. So stick to your intention. My intention is to connect with this individual, to know that there's clear communication. It may mean you reach out again, but you're not going to be going down the path of disappointment.
So when you start to meet with a new client and somebody comes to you and they want to get on this path, what's the first step you take? Is the first step you take really kind of unpacking the suitcase and seeing where they came from up to this point before you can actually see what is the right intentions going forward? How do you handle that?
I definitely unpack with them because I have a discerning ear. It's that I'm listening to their journey. I'm also listening for patterns that are occurring that could be leading them to expectation or wounds that need to be healed. Now, we always still look at what is the pain, what is the sadness, what must be healed. But what we do is we bring spiritual principle in to heal it and to bring powerful tools to move forward. So when clients are with me, it's a very engaging conversation. I'm listening, but if something comes up, I may say, wait, back up. What did you just say? Let's go there for a minute. And we may work on discovering a pattern that they didn't even know they had, that could be a language pattern, could be a limiting thought. You know, I've had people say, this is just the way I am, Kim. This has always happened to me. Yeah. And I'll say, so do you want it to keep happening? They'll go, no. I'll say, so let's back up. Then we got to clean up that belief that it's always happening to you. And that it takes layers to get to. But the difference is I simultaneously give them tools so they don't leave my office or my call without tools that they must practice every day. Because if not, they'd come once a week, have a conversation for an hour, and go home and do the same things. That's not growth. Growth is when we live it, but we have to practice.
How does the layman or woman, how do they put that in? And I'm thinking of a partner in your relationships. And some of us have partners, and I won't mention any names, who kind of who are stuck in that, not necessarily the expectation, but just an acknowledgement in their mind that I shouldn't try this because the worst case scenario is more than likely going to happen. And I have always been of a mindset that every situation I've ever gone into personally, I expect a positive outcome. I expect something positive is going to happen from it. And so then things do. And I honestly, and that's why I actually wanted to talk to you. I found it very interesting when I saw your information, was because I've been kind of living that way, maybe just unconsciously. And And I think for me, it's more from a standpoint of it's the aging process for me. The aging process for me is hard on me mentally, because I realize, at least in my mind, I've only got one turn on the wheel, and I like to fit things in. So I like to try new things, and I'm just constantly trying something new, and I'm always assuming a positive outcome. And so things happen. How do you deal with, or how do you work with people who, you're in a relationship with, they're your husband, your wife, and they don't share that point of view, and you feel it's kind of detrimental to the life that they're having? Is there anything I can do, or that person can do, or is it just something that they have to come to it on their own, and they have to kind of seek out someone else on their own? Because sometimes you don't want advice from the person who's sitting right next to you on the couch, right? You want to be able to get to it on your own. No,
you'd come see me. The two of you would come see me, those two people, because I'm interested in the conversation that heals. Okay. So whatever there is an impasse in a relationship, there's always a conversation underneath that I'm more interested in the couple coming to, because there's a reason they're together. There's a reason they've come to one another to grow individually and collectively. And often, if one partner is in the place of, it's not going to work, I've tried it, it's not going to work, then there's more to be discussed of, where can we both honor one another? Because I still want to grow. And how does that fit? And what are you open to having a conversation? And would you meet me halfway? But there's something underneath that gets to be talked about. And I'll always say to people, healing in relationship comes in the midst of the most difficult conversations, but we're taught to fall away from difficult conversations, to not lean in. And I believe lean into those difficult conversations and be willing to be vulnerable, to be willing to be non-judgmental. That takes practice individually, to really ask someone we love, hey, I've got a big question to ask you, and I want to sit with you and really understand where we've got a block and how to get through it. We have to be patient. We have to be non-judgmental. We've got so many tools to live in that conversation. And that's what's interesting to me, but that's where healing happens. Usually one of them will come up with, this is why I believe that. And it could be like, well, are you willing for us to grow through that? I mean, the conversation is what's interesting, and the path of healing. It's when we make a deciding, like a line in the sand that says, you're this way, I'm that way, then we're in trouble.
Because in a lot of ways, when you want to share those good things, and you want to share those victories with the people that you love and with the people that are in your family, and you want them to also believe that these things are going to happen for them too. But the belief is the beginning. You do have to have that belief that positive is going to happen. So it's just, it's just something that I've always I've just lived with it. I've just never expected to fail at things. It's like, well, I'm going to try it anyway. And if nothing else, I'm learning something. So, so I don't mind. I don't have a fear of failure, is what I guess what it comes down to. But if I'm taking that first practical step and I'm setting an intention and I'm taking control of my life, I'm awake now. What's the first thing I do? Are you expecting us to write these down? How do I keep those stuck in my brain? Is it like I'm putting, like the people who put smile on a Post-it note, put it on their computer?
Beautiful. It's helpful to post them because when somebody first starts, they'll forget. So if you add intentions to your morning practice, so if my morning practice is journaling and reading and saying a prayer, then I think, what's my intention for today? I can look over my day. If I have a really full day, I come back to asking myself, what do I want to experience? I want to be calm, centered, clear. I want to move through the day with ease. Okay, that's my intention. If I write it down and post it somewhere, I'm going to see it for a few times a day and go, oh yeah, get back on track. That's my intention. Yeah. When I've been doing them for most of my life. My children have heard me ask them every day that they have been alive, when they're getting out of the car to go to school, the last thing I say is, what's your intention today? Because I want to awaken within them that they are creating their reality. So we have that conversation all the time. And when I ask myself before I walk into a meeting, I could be going from my car to a meeting. I'll say, what's my intention? I could, before I'm going to pick up a phone to get on a call, just pause for a moment and just give yourself a moment to ask, what's my intention? And make sure that if you do write it down, that it's in the present moment, that it's positive, and that you're really not looking for an outcome. You're looking for, what do I want to feel like? What do I want to create? peace, harmony, joy, laughter, connection, success, financial freedom. Those are all beautiful intentions. But if we don't state them, there's still a desire out in the world somewhere that we think, I wonder if I'll ever have that, instead of, no, I'm claiming it. And then we must, take the action that matches our intention. So there's more to it than just writing it. So we need a lot more hours to talk.
No doubt. But that would be one of the pitfalls, right? So what are the pitfalls for the new person who's really trying to get involved in taking control of their life?
Is that the pitfalls of sometimes people say, I tried it one day and it didn't work. And I'm like, look at an athlete.
They want the instant gratification, right?
And look at our when I say the people who are like athletes, musicians that are really living what they want to achieve in life, they practice every day. Mm-hmm. They don't just come on the field and say, I think I'll practice next week before that big game. They practice every day. For some reason, in the human dilemma, we think, oh, well, I'll just do that next week, instead of, this is your internal practice. This is a practice of self-care. If I want to create my life, I must practice it. So what I would say, some pitfalls are people forget. So write down, what's my practice this morning? I'm going to get up, go outside, set my intentions, meditate for 5 minutes, start my day. I'm going to do that every day. And then it's a reminder that I'm going to live this so that my intentions have room to grow and create.
You mentioned your children and asking them every day what their intention is. When did you start that? And do you feel, is there a time when I can start that? I mean, is it too late at some point?
Never. It's never too late. And my children start the second they could talk, because, I had a woman look at me funny one day. My son was 3 and walking on a wall that was he could fall either way, just a foot or something.
Yeah.
And I never would say to my children, be careful. Because to me, that word, I would believe words are powerful. That word instilled that there's something scary.
Something
right?
to fear, yeah.
So instead, I'd always say, hey, Lucas, stay conscious of what you're doing. Watch your steps. Just stay conscious. And a woman looked at me and she was like, how can you say that to him? He's 3. And I said, because words are powerful. And those are the words that work in our family. Is I just want you to be aware of, look around, where are you at? Instead of, watch out. That was not something that worked for me. So yes, my children have heard it since they could communicate.
I love that, actually, because we have gotten to a point where we have to shelter you from any semblance of harm or risk. And I don't know when that happened, because again, we're the parents of these kids who are doing that. And I don't remember my mom ever speaking to me at all when I was a kid. I was gone from 8 o'clock in the morning, and I came back when the street lights came on. And maybe if I had a scrape or something, she would attend to it. But other than that, where have you been? No, that was never asked. You just went out and did it.
I look at my mom at times and say, I would be dropped off at the barn with my horse at 8 in the morning. You'd come in and get me at 5 at night. I was in the mountains, miles in the mountains by myself for hours. How did you do that? And she said, it was a different time. You were fine. And I was. But we get to no matter what age our children are. I have clients that are 14, that are 7, that are 27, that are 77. But we can start at any point in our lives to really, the question is, do you want to create your life? If a child says, I wish I could be that, great. Can I help you write an intention so you could aim for that? Because there is a pathway to create it, and you want to do it with me. We can engage our children, our youth, at any point. I teach children from all over the world how to use these tools, how to meditate, how to write gratitude journals, how to really consciously create, because they are our next generation. And
Absolutely.
My intention is to assist them to create a world that works for everyone. And that takes all of us staying in conversation.
So this idea of the universe is daunting for me, right? Because I mean, in my brain, I'm less than a grain of sand in the universe, in relative. So how does our personal energy, in your opinion, interact with that of the universe? How is it taking its time? And I'm always reminded of a poem I read. I think it was Stephen Crane wrote a poem. Said a man said to the universe, "Sir, I exist. However," replied the universe, "that has not instilled in me a sense of obligation." And I've always thought about that, right? That the universe, he's saying there, the universe doesn't care about you. You make it, but I guess you're making your own way. how do you reconcile that? How's my energy working with that of the universe?
I have studied, and really my belief is that we're connected to the universe. We're connected to each other. We're energetic beings. The earth is energy. We are all connected. So this universal field, and many people feel better of saying the universe instead of God or spirit. And I honor all paths. So what honors all? I don't think you have to say it a certain way. So the universe is that energetic force that lives within each and every one of us. We are connected to it. So we may be a speck in this universal energetic field, but we have power in our being of a speck. We're still connected. It's like the fish in the ocean is still connected to the ocean. And the fish still has a conversation with the ocean while it's moving. We tend to, at times as humans, think, I can't do anything about this. And I'm proposing we have the ability to participate on more ways than we've ever given ourselves credit for, which is why I'd say in the book, it's activating that power of the universe. We have connection to that source energy. That's been proven. So it is, are we applying it to create our lives, to create a life that works for all? So that speck still has power. You know, whether it's one light switch, it still can illuminate an entire house, or whether it is, you know, a little grain of sand is still part of the ocean. So we're all in this together, which is why it's so important to me to discuss with people, where are we in harmony with that universal force and with ourselves?
So how do I learn to, and that was another piece of what you've said to me, appreciating every day and being present in every day. How most of us, you know, we spend our lives looking forward. I'm looking forward to my next vacation, to time off, to Christmas, to whatever it may be. And we are, especially like right now, to me, mentally, it's still sometime in March, because we've been stuck inside. And so your lives have just been going past. How do you learn, or how do we get to a point where we are present again and we are appreciating every day for what we can do in that particular day?
That the best practice for that is to write a gratitude journal every day.
Okay.
And a gratitude journal and an acknowledgement journal every day, that we're grateful to have conversations at the dinner table before we even take a bite. Like, what are we grateful for today? You know, we're, again, this being energy, whatever we focus on expands. It's been proven again in science. So when we look at, if I focus on what I'm grateful for, more is going to come for me to be grateful for. If I focus on all the problems in my life, pretty sure I'm going to notice more problems. So it's true. Where is our attention? If our attention is on all that we are grateful for, we're building this field to receive more. Because when we're looking at all that's wrong, someone could walk up and hand us something that we've always wanted, and we're not even going to see it, because we're so stuck in everything that's not working and that we don't have. And when we start with children, and, you know, if a child says, you know, what I don't have, it's the first place I'd go to them to talk to me about what you do. Talk to me about what you're grateful for. Because when they could start igniting, I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to play in the play-yard. I'm grateful to go ride my bike. I'm grateful to kiss my dog's ears. Yeah. You know, then those it's really the qualities of life that we thrive on. We think it's the big fancy car or house, but once we get it, it's like, okay, I really want that tender touch next to my beloved, or I want to really succeed in where I'm of service. So when we're grateful for every step, we get more steps to be grateful for.
So in terms of the Agape International Spiritual Center, can you talk a little bit about what that center, what you do through the center, and especially right now, are you able to do things remotely? Are you able to do these kind of interactions through Zoom or whatever?
I teach
Skype?
Class in this format. Yes, I do. Agape's been present for 34 years. Yes, it'll be 34 next month. And it's a beautiful spiritual center that's all-inclusive. When I say all-inclusive, it sounds like a resort, but it believes in oneness of all beings. There's room for everyone there, you know, whatever religious belief. There's just an open door that we are one body of consciousness. So all are invited. So people come online from around the world. People come in person when we can open the doors. And the founder, Michael Bernard Beckwith, is an amazing soul that is a minister that came up through the science of mind training, Ernest Holmes teachings, and has then just really stretched into an international spiritual center that we travel and teach. I teach classes at the Agape University, and it's people from all over the world tune in to our Facebook Lives, we lead meditation and prayer every morning and at noon, and give services on Sunday. He's also the teacher. He has the founding spiritual arm at the Rhythmia Life Advancement Center in Costa Rica, and I go down there and teach that course. So it really is a beautiful spiritual center that uplifts individuals to remember who they are, but we also give you the tools, everything we're talking about and more, of how to live an awakened life and to create your life and to be of service in the world without a heavy dogmatic feeling to it. It's very open and accepting that there is one power and it all works through us, and we get to honor every individual on our path of how we access that power.
So can you, without any, you don't need to obviously give me any names. Can you just give me a situation? Was there been something that you have with a client where there was a breakthrough or a situation that occurred with them that really affected you and the way that their life was able to turn around? Do you have an example of something like that you could share?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. Every day it happens to me in life. I have so many.
And understanding sometimes, like you said, sometimes the biggest victories are just something that seems very small to other people, yes. But to that particular yes. person, it may mean everything, right? It may be the yes. world.
Yes. When I sit with individuals, I work with a lot of people in treatment and recovery. And when I watch someone, and this has happened many times, really catch that their path of healing, whether it's to stay sober, is to stay clean, is through amplifying their spiritual tools. And I've watched hundreds of people use spiritual tools in that situation to lead a life of honesty and integrity and authenticity and create the life they want without addiction following them. It's life-changing. And I have them come back to me and say, I'm using my intentions every day. I'm standing in gratitude, and it's saving my life. When somebody tells me this work has saved my life, it's just as important as a client who has a brain tumor that is going into surgery and looking at his doctor and saying, my intention is to know that you are going to do the best job possible for me, and I'm coming out of here stronger than ever. Just as important as that is the person who's amplifying the tools that has looked as if they've had a bumpy road and it turned, and these tools have saved their life. So I would need hours to tell you of all the wonderful, wonderful, as well as the client that I had when she was in third grade that was using intentions to try to figure out where to sit at the lunch tables at school because she was being bullied. Oh. And now she's 14 and is using intentions every day of her life in high school and is soaring. Like, that just ignites me to know she started at a young age and her life has changed. So there's no end to the power we each have when we are really in self-care, self-practice, living what we came here to live, which is our highest potential. And I am honored to assist people to wake up with certain tools, these tools that help them do that, which is why I wrote the book, right?
Yeah. So your daily routine, I know I've kind of heard, I'm assuming there's meditation involved from what I've heard so far. Mm-hmm. Do you journal every day? Do you do some type of...
Most days. My practice varies. It keeps expanding over the mm-hmm. years, but it always includes meditation, prayer, reading from some spiritual content that is very important to me every day. I go outside to do my prayers. I go running through the mountains and connect with the earth. I always set my intentions all day long before every meeting, before every call. And then at the end of the night, I'm always writing my gratitudes and acknowledgments. But my practice is now, it's woven throughout my day. And if someone starts just with 20 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night, great. Whether it's 5 minutes in the morning when life changes, that's okay. I had a client over the weekend say, when I'm busy, I make sure that when I'm driving to work, I'm setting my intentions, I'm saying what I'm grateful for, so I'm still getting it done. And that's because this individual has felt the difference of staying in practice and how his whole life is different. So it's wonderful to know that my practice keeps growing, and it's going to keep growing. It will forever grow.
And how do you, because I know you talked about also teaching children how to meditate. I have tried to meditate personally several times, and I failed miserably at it. I think the one time I fell asleep, and then
That's okay.
I've had a hard time doing it. How do you start meditation? I'm just going to ask you, how do you start it, and what is the goal? What is the intention of the meditation period? What am I trying to accomplish?
And meditation is a time that we are in just surrendered to deep listening. We want to empty our brain.
Oh, okay.
That's really hard to do.
Yeah.
So I know that. So when I say it out, when I say it like that, I want to just imply that I want to state that it's not easy at the beginning, because people say, I can't quiet the brain. If you get one moment of a thought that it's just quiet, you're doing well. Wayne Dyer said it really well. And when he was teaching meditation, he said, we want to get in between, with the gap in between the thoughts. So we want to be still, create stillness. So I like to sit. I always sit in the chair, something that supports my back. Closing my eyes, I just slow down my breath. I say a prayer because it gets me centered. And then I surrender to just focusing on my inhale and my exhale. When thoughts come up, I let them just completely float away. I see them float away, like I'll deal with them later, and I come back to my breath. I do have, you could go on Spotify, and I have 5 good guided meditations on there right under my name.
Okay.
And those are a good start for people to begin, because lots of times when we first start meditating, we needed them to be guided until we could sit in silence. Sometimes now my best meditations are sitting in a doctor's office where people are talking, but I could close my eyes and I just want to surrender and be still, even for a few moments.
So, my last question for you then tonight would be, and I kind of asked this a little bit earlier, but just in terms of you personally, what is the most impactful thing that you've learned about yourself through this process, and then also through writing the book?
The most impactful thing. I've learned that the connection to the universal force, spirit, whatever one names it, to me it's spirit, universe, is so important to me, because that is where that I could say, I learned that I'm stronger than I thought to get through the fire, or I learned flexibility or patience. And yet what most important to me is I've learned how that connection to source is more important than anything to me, so that everything starts there for me. So my practice has been so sustained now over years that when I'm connected to source, which I always am, but tangibly, anything that comes up before me is a circumstance that I know I have the strength to get through. That it's not just my physical strength, it's that I'm surrendering to this power to remember, oh, this probably will be hard, but I have a power back of me that's supporting me through it, so I don't feel alone. And I think when we begin to, when I say human, when we have a human experience of feeling alone and isolated and scared, that's when things feel defeating and too hard to get through. And if we remember that it's the practice that I've been discussing that built that connection with me to source spirit, that connection helps me remember that it may be difficult, but I still have the strength to get through it. And I may not have it today, but it's still there. So it gives me the intention to not give up, to know there's always possibility, always, no matter how dire it looks, there's always possibility.
Well, that just leads me to believe that, or that old adage, sometimes things are difficult, but they're worth it, and the program that we're talking about, becoming more focused during a day, setting your intentions, weaving that into your life, checking your intentions every day, writing your gratitude journal at night, doing some meditation in the morning. That all takes some work. It isn't going to happen just by, hitting an app on your phone. Right. But what is changing your life worth to you? Yes. And my mother always said that. My mother would always say this to me when I was a kid, and maybe that's why I kind of grew up the way I did, was I would come in and I'd complain about something. And what I had done was I would take in a lot of small issues and turn them into a big issue. And then I was having a big mental breakdown about it. And she would say to me, well, it sounds like you have a lot of small issues. And first of all, pull those issues apart. And now there's a lot of little ones, fix them one at a time, and then you're done. And then secondarily, and I would complain about that too. And she goes, well, it doesn't hurt you enough yet. So when it hurts you enough, you'll change it. Period. Interesting. So it always stuck with me, because I'm like, well, you're right. it hurts me now. I'm just aggravated now, but now it's hurting me, so I'm going to fix it. And so people want that quick fix, and changing your life and fixing your life and getting what you want from your life isn't quick. It isn't easy in any respect.
It's worth it.
Yeah, but it's worth it. Exactly.
It's worth it.
That's awesome. So, thank you so much, Kim, for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. I'm going to get started. There's a lot of, here, I'll put this in front of you there again.
Thank you.
There are a lot of opportunities within the book that you can start writing down different intentions. You can write down different goals, or things, how you're going to write things down for yourself to start your process. There it is, the technology of intention. And absolutely, is there anything else that you have a couple of moments here? Anything else you're working on currently? Is there the technology of intention part 2? Something you want to plug?
There's a lot I'm working on personally, and
Sure.
I'm going to birth it at another time, because right now this book is so important to me to know that there's much following the book. And I'm honored if everyone who reads it really is inspired to put into practice what's possible. And there's also intentions in the book. So if someone says, I don't know how to write them, there's pages and pages of them in there as well.
Correct. Yeah, I did notice that, because that was one of my questions also, was how am I writing the intention? Because I would have written it completely wrong. I'll be honest. I would have written
They're in there for you.
Probably in a negative way. I would have said not smoking, even though I don't smoke. I would have said something like that. I want to not eat donuts.
Right.
That's not the way I should have done it. So
it's okay. It's right in there. You'll figure that out, won't you?
Absolutely. It did actually help me quite a bit. And just the idea, because that was something I struggled with, was, should I be writing them down? Will I forget them during the day if I don't write them down? It should be something I should, put it down in front of me. And because now we all work, or at least I work remotely, so boom, there it is right there. And it is something where you can reaffirm it prior to every meeting, every call, prior to every interaction with your family that you've seen 24 hours a day for the last 8 months.
True.
Occasionally that starts trying on your nerves. You got to, okay, what's my intention? And it's my intention to start a
walk
fight.
Walk in this room and just be love. That's my intention.
Exactly.
To connect and be love. Yes.
Absolutely. So thank you once again, Kim Stanwood-Terranova. You can find more about her work online. Again, KimStanwood-Terranova.com, and you can purchase her book there. And you can also purchase it on Amazon.com. Once again, the name is The Technology of Intention: Activating the Power of the Universe Within You. So thank you so much, Kim, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. Bless you, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So that was Kim Stanwood-Terranova. She is working on changing your life through the technology of intention. And, I read the book, and there is a lot of good information in there. And it is very, it's just, honestly, it's logical. It's not necessarily common sense, but to get the things you want, you have to ask for the things you want. You have to ask for them and be willing to accept them in whatever form that they come. And I think that's one of the themes of the book that I picked up on anyway, is that sometimes that what you are looking for and what you want may not come to you in the way that you're hoping for. It may be a little bit different than what you're looking for, but so you have to be open. And again, that goes back to the expectations, and we don't want to expect something specific, because then if you have some win, it's still a win, but it's slightly different than what you were expecting. And now you think it's a fail, and now you think you didn't get what you wanted, when in reality, you got some version of that, and you should still be grateful for what you have and what you've received. I think that, a lot of us, changing your life is not easy. Getting on the right path to what you want in life is not easy. But we are a society of people who think that only the easy way is worth it. And if we have to try too hard or work too hard on anything, then it's not worth it. And bettering yourself is a daily occurrence. You have to follow those type of things daily. And I did like the fact that, using the universe as an interchangeable idea with spirituality, with God, whatever it may be for you. It doesn't have to be, God. I'm putting my faith in God. I'm putting my faith in the universe. I'm putting my faith in the life force that governs us all. And I am pushing out my positive intentions, and I'm receiving back what the universe gives me. And this is not a new idea. It is something that has been around for a long time. So I would recommend all of you give it a shot, give it a try, and see how it works. Can't hurt. I mean, what are you doing right now that's working so well for you? I mean, truly, are you doing something right now that's working for you? Contact us. ProveMeWrongcast@gmail.com. Drop us a line. Let us know what it is that you're doing and how you're changing your life, whether it be through the technology of intention, Kim Stanwood-Terranova, or your own method. What is it? You can please share it with us. If I receive some emails from you, I'll share them online. I'll do a follow-up email or a follow-up show for what we've done here, and we'll talk about it. If you also want to drop us a line on Facebook or Instagram, you can find us on both. It's just Prove Me Wrong. That's the name of the show. Search for those on Facebook and Instagram, and you will find the Prove Me Wrong podcast. If you were just looking to find other ways to listen to the show, we are on basically every podcast platform you can think of: iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Anchor. Really, again, anywhere where you find podcasts, you can find the Prove Me Wrong podcast. Like and subscribe to the podcast show, and you will be notified when a brand new episode arrives. We typically publish a new episode every week. So like and subscribe, and you will be notified when a new one pops up. We're also on Twitter. It's Prove Me Wrongcast, at Prove Me Wrongcast. It's our Twitter handle. We publish the shows there weekly as well. So if Twitter is your favored social media platform, you can find us there also. And we are on YouTube. And as you can see, here's the YouTube scroll right here. Like and subscribe to the Prove Me Wrong podcast on YouTube. And once again, you will be notified via email or whatever notification YouTube uses that a brand new episode of the Prove Me Wrong podcast has been released. And you can go and you can watch the video portion of the interview that I had tonight with Kim Stanwood-Terranova. Maybe slightly different looking at the people watching us talk versus just listening to it on a podcast. Some people prefer one or the other. I give you both. So before we go tonight, the Prove Me Wrong podcast is brought to you tonight by ZendoZones citronella burners from JT Eaton. They are shaped like fearless bug-repellent tiki gods. So let Surf and Stan, Hawaiian Howie, and Luau Lily bring the islands to your backyard with ZendoZones citronella burners. ZendoZones uses natural 3% citronella candles and incense cones. They're perfect for patios, decks, backyards, campsites, poolside, and more. You can enjoy the outdoors again. ZendoZones are available now on Amazon.com and at select Ace hardware stores. So go ahead and collect them all today. So once again, from my guest, Kim Stanwood-Terranova, she is the author of The Technology of Intention, Activating the Power of the Universe Within You. I'm Pete Lieb. This is the Prove Me Wrong podcast, and we'll see you again soon.